Okay, back by popular demand, today's featured speaker, Brian Harlow, was named Vice President Manufacturing, FCA North America in October 2014 and kept this position until his recent retirement. In this position, he led nearly 70,000 employees in manufacturing, engineering, and operations at 35 assembly, stamping, powertrain, and subsidiary locations in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. Brian also simultaneously held the title of Global Head of Powertrain Manufacturing Engineering. Brian joined the former Chrysler Corporation in 1978 after graduating from Purdue with a civil engineering degree. He joined as a plant engineer at the Kokomo transmission plant, which started a nearly 41-year career where his responsibilities grew to include manufacturing operations throughout the world. He's held various positions of production, maintenance, quality, manufacturing engineering, and product engineering in the plants. After the 1998 Chrysler merger with Daimler, he led the Transmission Advanced Manufacturing Engineering Group. He helped secure the decision to build the Mercedes 5-speed transmission in Kokomo and oversaw the construction of Indiana Transmission Plant 2 in Timpton, Indiana. Coming out of bankruptcy in 2009, he was named VP Head of Powertrain. He helped gain approval to manufacture the all-new 8-speed and 9-speed transmissions at the Kokomo and Tipton plants. He also led the launch of the new inline-4 fire engine and the Pentastar V6 engine. Brian Harlow now lives in Bonita Springs with his wife Rochelle. He retired in February 2019, so about a year ago, and is now one of us as an NCRO member in good standing. Please welcome today's featured speaker, Brian Harlow.
All right, good morning. Good morning. It's really a privilege and an honor to be here today. I see a lot of faces I know and names I wish I could remember. It's already happening. I'm not 90. But again, thank you for being here today. I'm going to be a little philosophical to start out here, if you don't mind. That's kind of my heart. So, I've got the clicker, don't I? Middle? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is kind of how I am built, I suppose. And there's a verse in there that talks about in Psalms talks about learning to number your days, and it's been kind of in the back of my mind or front of my mind, however you look at it. And I've already got 2 red ones now. 2 of them have ended, and there's some others. The Chrysler ones are still going. We certainly hope this merger is a good thing and keeps that rolling. My marriage is doing well, and I'm getting gray, but it's all days. They all pass. This is a picture of a mounting we have in our place in Florida. It's lit up, and it's a prayer that I've prayed probably for the last 25 years, almost daily. And I don't show this because that's how I think I look. I don't. And even in the context of it, what it means. But it's a challenge for me to want to be like that. And what it says is to be like a tree planted by the river, so strong, so rooted, so capable that when the storms come, you're there. So, and again, there's a lot of people in this room that's had an influence in me in my career, but I think it'd be remiss for me not to acknowledge some of the key people. And this may sound a little corny, the first one, but it is kind of important what your parents do. And not joke withstanding, but I had great parents, loving, caring, faithful parents that taught me. I lived on a farm and the values of life. The next one may be odd for you, but you know what? For me, it would be remiss for me to leave this name off, because from that point on, at age 7, my relationship with Jesus has impacted my thinking and my decision making. It never stopped. I certainly, again, have a lot of things I don't do right, so please don't take it like I think I got it together. It's more of a thank you that you're there to help me make my choices. My brother Jeff, when I was 13, I was in the 8th grade. He was a freshman, and we'd done fine in school. We didn't have to work too hard at it. He was a freshman, and he started locking himself up in his room studying. And that was bothering me because I'm thinking, wow, what's that going to be like? So I asked him, I said, what's the deal? Why are you studying all this? He says, well, he said, I've decided that I'm going to follow our dad's footsteps and be valedictorian in my class. Because I want to do everything he did. I'm thinking, oh no, I don't want this. And fortunately, he achieved it. I come along kicking and screaming, and my sisters all did too. I only tell you that because it's people in your life that inspire you to do things that matter. And you've inspired people. I know you have. I know the people in this room. And that inspiration never stops. Never stops till our days stop. I know you're still inspiring people. I'm going to quickly say this name. This is a guy who was a janitor in the Kokomo transmission plant. I had just about to graduate from Purdue and was headed off to a consulting firm in Indianapolis. Wanted to stay in town. Had tried to interview at Kokomo and they weren't hiring. 78 wasn't exactly the best of economic times. He happened to know, because he was outside janitor, he happened to know the HR guy at the time, Tom Beatty. And it just happened that he was instrumental in me getting hired, and otherwise 41 years wouldn't have happened. Dale Slawbaugh. I saw Jim Robertson, and where you at, Jim? There you are. And Bob Lewandowski. I know you guys know this guy. Howard, you might too. But this guy gave me a chance early in my career to be on a big project that I probably had no business with the responsibility I had. He took the chance and, again, really launched an opportunity for me to move on. Frankie Wasician. I don't think there's probably anybody in the room that doesn't know Frank. So I was an Indiana guy completely, and for those of you that know me, I had zero intention. Both of my feet were planted every way it could possibly plant in Indiana, and no intention. I had turned down some other almost directions to go other places, and I just didn't want to do it. But Frank was different. Somehow he convinced me to come to Michigan at CTC for a director position. I still had one foot in Indiana and one foot in Michigan, but he's a great friend, a great leader, and we still have in contact. This guy came into my life, as he did with many people, and changed my life again. When he came, when I was going to retire in 15, it changed my mind then. And when I was going to retire in 18, changed my mind one more time. And then I'll talk a little bit more about him later. And then the last guy you may not know, but I know at least one person in the room knows beside me, Doug Schmidt. He was the pastor of Woodside Bible, which is just around the corner, actually not very far from here. And my wife wasn't exactly, she was more firmly planted in Indiana than me. And it wasn't exactly a great thing when we moved up here. She did fine. But the change that's happened for her and us, I've been coming here for 40 years, so Michigan is, I say I'm planted in Indiana, but I know more people in Michigan and I probably know the geography better from all the trips of driving, actually. But this guy has been a real influence in my life, and because we live in Florida now, I still got a foot planted in Michigan because, again, people like him. So I'm going to start, and I don't know if this will go from me. Will I click it and go? I hope it does. Just click it? Okay, so WCM is critical. I'm going to mention a few other people I see in the room here as we go along, but I saw Joe Osdally. Joe, would you stand up, please? So Joe, I know he was my counterpart in China, or APAC. He ran manufacturing there, so he knows all about WCM. Oops, may not run. What do I do now? There you go. We could use some sound though. It's a really quiet video. There we go. This is really what WCM is about. I had on my front slide, I didn't mention it, it's all about people. It's never changed. And I really think that WCM is probably done the most for us as manufacturing in bringing the people into a constant, how would I say, understanding of our methods. We're a global company. We talked about, it's been mentioned, the Daimler times. We had interactions and there were some very good things, and of course there were some very bad endings. But the difference with Fiat has been the globalization in every aspect. Manufacturing is completely global and integrated, and I'm joking and attest to that, whether it's in Europe or in South America, which you spent time in there too. World-class manufacturing WCM, as I say, is, I'll show the next slide. It's made up of 10 technical pillars and 10 leadership pillars. And we measure those this way. And get some echo going. And just to give you an example, this is Toledo, the Wrangler plant. The Toledo Assembly Complex, actually both the north and the south plants. So all of those are measured, I did it again, in each of those categories. Can you take it back? I got a fat finger that keeps hitting this button. Thank you. On the lower right hand, you may not be able to see it, but besides the fact this is a 2 or 3 day process when the auditors come in to do this, but inside that, or external to that, is a gating process that if you don't make those metrics of safety and cost and JD powers, warranty, all those things, you don't pass the gate. So it isn't like you just pass some audit. It's a rigorous process. And I would really, I mentioned to Jay, it would be good for you to go back and see a plant and see what's really happened with what Fiat brought in with this WCM process, if you haven't been back anytime recently. This I just got as a text about 2 weeks ago from the plant manager, who's the person in the middle, at the front row kind of middle. His name is Tomasz Gepka. They just got silver at Belvedere. He was excited about that. But just to get some understanding of how global we are, and integrated with people. This is Tomas's background. He's, I think, 37, 38. He's been in 6 countries, and we're the 6th, 3 continents, and this was his 11th significant assignment. So, again, the breadth of the people, he understands manufacturing, but he understands people too. So as I say, the integration of the globalization has taken on quite a bit different from the days when we were with Daimler in the integration process. So, Bob Lee is in the house, I think. I heard that. Where's Bob? Hello, Bob. Bob, please stand up. Bob Lee is a good friend and a great executive. He should be, he's a great speaker too. But he was on the General Executive Council, or the Global Executive Council, I'm sorry. So he was on the highest ranking committee. I get to present to him a few times. But he and I worked together a lot over the years, in particular in this page. He was responsible for the global engineering for powertrain. I was responsible for the execution on the manufacturing side of that. So we trotted around the world together in some cases, and so we got plants all over, Brazil, China, Europe, and I've been to all of these, and we've launched something in every one of these, so I've been multiple times in some places, except India. I didn't want to go to India, and thankfully we didn't have a project there, so nothing against Indians, that's not the point. But just some perspective, and again, Bob's way more versed when it comes to the product side of this, since he designed them, but from the execution of what we were doing, we started out launching the new global medium engine, 4-cylinder engine in Termoli for the Alfa Romero launch. Then we came into NAFTA. We have a plant in Trenton that we have a flex line that we've done a variety of things on that line, and this is one of them. And then in APAC, where Joe was, we launched in Changsha. And then really was taking root as I was exiting. We had launched the global small engine, which really, as you can see, there's not a lot of demand for that in the U.S. This is more for the rest of the world, particularly South America and Europe. But we have a plant in Betim in Brazil that we launched first, and then it was really just underway in Termoli and Biesco Bielo in Europe. And then there's flex lines that we have in China that we're able to do a variety of engines, and that's underway. So this engine, and again, it was being approved as, I think even last year, more capacity. We'll see what happens with Peugeot, I suppose. So that's that. Let's talk North America now. So these are the plants. Mike already mentioned the numbers, but as you can see in the lower left-hand corner, we're still about 2/3 employment in the U.S., evenly split for the other third between Mexico and China, or Mexico and Canada. Canada's not China. They speak a different language there, but it's not Chinese. Vehicle production, it's not surprisingly pretty much split the same way, and then we continue to make most of our powertrains in the U.S., although Saltillo is a very important location for manufacturing and stamping. We're close to the two big stamping plants, particularly the Sterling stamping and Warren stamping plants, but we do have some satellite operations, and I'll touch on some of those. So, I-4 engine production for North America. We have 3 locations that we produce those. As I mentioned before, the GME we build at Trenton, and you can see the total volume. And I've said this in the past, and others can agree or disagree with me, but we looked at a lot of history when we launched the V6, the Pentastar, which has been a phenomenal engine. But as gas prices go, the shift to percentages pretty much just stays. The V6s just kind of stay the same. We run full capacity and more most of the time. When gas prices are high, there's a little bit higher percentage of the 4s and less of the 8s. And when it's low like it is now, it's really predominant V8s and V6s. And since most of our profits come from North America and U.S. in particular, that's an important feature. But we do have the plant in Dundee, and I know they're in the process of actually moving, and I'll talk about in a minute, for the next project that's going to become part of the V6 plan too. And then in Saltillo, we make products that actually get shipped to China and Italy, and are some consumption in Toluca too, and Brazil. Most of it is for Brazil. Mentioned V6 already. These plants we started launching right out of bankruptcy is one of the things that Sergio accelerated, and again Bob and I were intimately involved with these, and we have ran these. They were built for $440,000 a year. So the original capacity was $880,000. We did add capacity in Trent, but you can see $1.3 million last year, which was pretty typical. We ran them 3-2-120, 6 days a week, plus shift on Sunday almost all the time. And they haven't slowed down yet. And we accelerated the launches at the initial phase. V8s. So the Hemi was supposed to at least go less, if not die. The original capacity was around 400,000 on that line. I was going to include, and did not, but if you look at the history of this plant, we run maybe 200,000, maybe 300,000, I think, in the past. But you can see the number here, 527. This is off a transfer line built for 400,000. We run that plant really, really hard. And the designs in the mix for the big gas engine SRT applications for the Challenger Charger and the Trailhawk for the Grand Cherokee, all those variations are also on that line. So it's a remarkable plant. They do a great job. But again, the volume doesn't seem to be going down. And here's what would happen every year. It happened every year. Especially when I was the powertrain guy for manufacturing, not as a sub part. But they would forecast the year to meet compliance for emissions. So there's always more 4s and some 6s and not very many 8s. And they would want me to schedule the plants that way. They would put the forecast out, and I refused to do it. Fortunately, they listened, and we'd go ahead and build. Otherwise, we would. And by the time we get to June, there was always wanting more V6s and V8s. It really hadn't changed much. Transmissions, we make them 2 million plus in Kokomo. We have multiple plants there now. And we do buy about 1 million or so from ZF, so it's a big, still a big connection with ZF. And then our casting operations. We have the biggest casting operation in the world in Kokomo. We do blocks and all the transmission housings and so forth. About 1 million pounds of molten aluminum every day, pretty much 7 days a week. And we've really added a lot of science to this in the last 5-6 years. It really improved it. We were supplying the block for Maserati, which was being built by Ferrari. And we went through quite a learning experience of what quality is when you're doing something for Ferrari. I remember being in a meeting one time with Sergio. I'm sure, Bob, you were there. And Scott Garberdine was working for him at the time, and we launched this thing. And I mean, the specifications were off the charts. I mean, really, you couldn't have anything wrong. And so we were struggling a bit. And we had a machining outfit not too far from here that was involved too. And Sergio looked at us and said, "You guys have no idea what you're dealing with here. This is Ferrari." It was like, you know, they were supposed to like melt on the floor or something. I don't know. But the great thing about it was this: it forced us to go deeper than we ever had before in our processes, and we put in equipment and processes and people training that really made a difference and has helped us in all of our operations. Central stamping, I mentioned we have 2 big ones here. We put in new presses, new Komatsu presses, 180-inch, mostly to support the launch of the truck and the Wrangler. And then we do satellite stamping. Because we moved the Cherokee to Belvedere, we do the stampings there. We were doing them in Warren, for example. Brampton does most all their products. We still ship to Saltillo, believe it or not, for the trucks, but they do some of their own stampings, the hoods and so forth. Toluca similarly. Car minivan. So the whole thing with Chrysler, and its volume and its opportunity in the future, we'll see what happens, that Jay was talking about. But we continue to run Brampton, Ralph Gills and the team in design, along with, again, what Bob's team did in powertrain, was just unbelievable between the regular Hellcat and the Demon and the Red Eye. Tim Konixis, who's the president and CEO of Dodge brand, the creativity to get to products that people want to buy. And trust me, we make a few bucks on those vehicles. I think Tesla does too, though, because we pay Tesla for the credits. So it's a good combination. That's our electrification. All right. And of course, Windsor continues to go on. We could sell more. Oops. That was a picture of Toluca. We went down in December of the year before, just before we retired. 50 years Toluca's been running. So time flies. The days pass along. That takes us to Jeep. if you look at the numbers here, 1.3 million in Jeeps. If you look on the right side, Jefferson North, just the history. Obviously, '09 doesn't really count. Maybe '10, you can say maybe still doesn't count. But you look at these numbers on production, and we continue to run Jefferson North every day. We were working close to 358 or so a year. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's tough to run a plant that way in many aspects. But you can see the numbers. It would set a record each, and it was a kind of a challenge at the last week to get there. But 376,000 a year, and we just keep selling. What a vehicle! Toledo, of course, we launched the new Wrangler, and if you look at the history of the Wrangler, I don't know if you can see those small numbers there, but when we became part of AMC, which had to be one of the best things that ever happened, I was so excited when we got Jeep and to have a Jeep back then, and still am actually. But if you look at the numbers, we were in the teens for years, really. We finally got in '93. This is the Wrangler again. Into the '70s. The first time it hit 100 was '97. And then it kind of hung in that, bouncing around until 2007, at the tail end of the Daimler time. I don't think it was a Cerberus influence here, but it was up a little bit. And then, of course, '09. But look at the numbers now. For the last 6 years, we run well over 200 and 250, and the plant isn't built for that. Trust me, it's not. The paint shop's not. But we run, again, that plant. We've made some changes, and of course now, since we reinstalled everything for the new Wrangler, we put some more capacity in. But Sergio, when we did these changeovers, there was no tolerance for lost production. We were supposed to magically make this stuff all get installed and work, because he told me one time his office was just, there was a wall between our offices, so it wasn't far. I could hear him on occasion too. But we were sitting in a meeting one time, and unfortunately we missed the production that day, or the day before, or whatever. He says, "You know what?" He says, "When you miss this production, it's like taking a knife and sticking it right in my hand." And I'm thinking, how many knives have I stuck in your hand? Oh my goodness. Anyway, all good with Wranglers. And so, one of the things that we wanted to do, and there's been a lot of good things done with people, and I still say it's all about people, but again, when you have that many people working that many hours, and it's hard to keep them wanting to work. And then quite frankly, with the new contracts that came in, our pay isn't all that outstanding. So, we took them through this process. Hopefully they're satisfied.
We're here today with the Jeep Immersion Program. It's a program to bring all the employees,
This is before we launched the
person that's going
Wrangler.
to work in JL, into one room, one experience, to be able to drive the vehicles that they're going to build. We've had programs before where we've met and we've worked on team building exercises, but we've never taken every employee, 3,600 plus of us, from all different levels, from management, union, material handling, quality, and the production floor, and put them into a vehicle that they've probably never ever driven before.
It's actually really cool because I've never driven a Jeep before.
I haven't rode in one or driven one.
I've ridden with friends that have had off-road, but I've never really driven anything big, so.
And then once they get their hands on the wheel and are actually able to press the gas pedal and steer it and drive it up a hill and drive it down, the smiles on their faces, the comments that I see on the floor, it's brought this atmosphere that they can share something. They can share the ride in the vehicle. They can share the thoughts of what they did in some of the breakout sessions. It's not just me hearing the expressions of how well this program is doing. It's them sharing that information among themselves. Everything that we do here for this immersion program, it puts a sense of pride in them, knowing that every part that they put on this car allows that vehicle to do that. They literally have this feeling about themselves, that they're confident in what they're doing, that they have a pride in the vehicle. The people on the floor now recognize what we're doing here and are able to communicate better.
It's pretty amazing. It's gonna help people understand what we're building in here.
Definitely builds my pride. I'm proud to make this Jeep.
I'm happy to build a vehicle like this. I mean, I think it's sweet. Like, otherwise you couldn't take vehicles out on trails, you know, out in the wilderness, out on the dunes. You couldn't do any of that stuff without these. So
I'm a believer now. I didn't think they could do it.
Man, I didn't know. Yeah, so yeah, it makes you really appreciate it. You feel good about it.
It shows you why you built it and what if something goes wrong, why you should tell it because of the terrain, you know, the road. You should want to be a great builder.
I think everybody's going to go in the door with a better attitude for sure. It's just a matter of keeping it up.
It's gonna increase the morale, that's for sure, and the teamwork, because they know what they're building now, all of us.
The great thing is that we brought the culture into one big group. So no longer we're working in this room or with this wall in between us, that we're all trying to build the same thing. And it's no longer my job, your job, it's our job.
I did it! I scaled a mountain!
But just to give you a feel, again, when you're talking 5,000 people, all walks of life, and people in Toledo are great people for sure. But again, understanding what they're making, we set that track up in right at the plant. So then the trucks have done pretty good. We made 800,000 again. These numbers are 18 numbers. I think they're very close to the 19 numbers because we don't have a lot more capacity actually. But we launched a new Ram. I want to go into a little bit of detail here. And of course, we launched a year ago right now, just as I was exiting, we launched the heavy-duty version of that down Saltillo. Sterling Heights, not far away. So the blue part where it says the DT cab, that was the Chrysler 200 body shop. That only lasted a very short time. We retooled that. The DT cab paint shop was the new paint shop for the 200. So again, a lot of investment that really certainly didn't pay back, but was still the right choice to make. And it allowed us to keep running Warren and making trucks. Trust me, it more than paid for itself to do that. And then we retooled the old paint shop, completely gutted it, so it's essentially a brand new paint shop down on the bottom where you see the DT box paint shop, and added a new box body shop and a massive assembly process. We get the frames from Tulsa. They're all automatically conveyed in. I'll show you a video here in a minute, hopefully, that shows the plant inside. But it's a super high-tech plant, the most automated, I would say, for a truck plant of any. And the difference between Warren and it is dramatic. Now, again, Warren does a very good job, but from a quality standpoint, our opportunities were significant here. So, one of the biggest challenges we had, as I say, Sergio absolutely did not want to lose truck production. There's a kind of a big number attached with every one of those that adds to the coffers. And so we had 1,500 people. You look to the right at Shap. When we laid off the people and shut down the Chrysler 200, we had 1,500 people on layoff for about 8 months to 9 months, something like that. And so we had those people available, but we needed about 6,000. Actually, the number grew a little bit on top of that. But at that time, going in, we needed about 6,000 people. So that meant we needed to bring in people. And we knew we were going to drop the volume in Warren, so we needed to take people out of there. Bottom line of all that was we interviewed 6,500 people to hire 4,800 people. And again, this is not, even then wasn't exactly the greatest time in the world to be hiring people because people had jobs. But again, we went through the process, did fine. We wanted them all to go through Warren so that they got exposed to truck manufacturing. So we passed them through a process there. And so we ended up, as you can see, we ended up with about 2,000 people, 2,200 coming from that were previous truck builders. And we had about 2,200 that had worked at Warren and then passed their way through. So if you can think about this, and I'm saying this from the standpoint of we had our struggles at Shep. We did launch it. It was in the press a little bit. Sergio said it a few times, and I heard a little bit from him about it. But the reality of that was, again, we had a high-tech plant. We had also all the suppliers in the area were new. So they were hiring people too. We were helping them, trust me, a lot. But we have 3 groups of people in SHAP, and SHAP has a history of kind of being some struggles, let's say it that way. So there's this big, what happened was with all these people coming from Warren, they had they thought they were the experts in truck building. We had the people at SHAP who thought they were, it was their house, and then we had the new people commingling all that together. And then you can imagine the elections, when it was election time, there was a whole shifting around that. So again, it was just opportunity, worked out in the end. We, again, spent a lot of time training. So this is hopefully a video that shows you the inside operation once we got it up and running. If you don't have the music on this one, it's okay. So this is you can turn that down actually. This is the cab body shop. This is the box shop here. Everything in that plant was new, 100%. This is the cab going into paint, phosphate knee coat, transferring over, going through sealer. We really tried to get our people to work this fast, but it is a 45-second cycle time, though. It is a very fast. I mean, when you go looking at the line coming through paint now, it is moving. Trust me. So we used AGVs for the powertrain build, AGVs for the chassis build. That was a whole new. This was the first time doing any of that in industry here. So we had our learning curve. We've seen some massive robots there that transfer. Now we're taking the painted cab into assembly. We put in rotating conveyors you see here, which from an ergonomics and quality standpoint, big help. Being able to get to the vehicle where you need to do the fastening. Here's the box build. And then if you've ever been to Warren and seen how this happens at Warren, it's like a miracle when they come down. You can't imagine. Here it was automated, and then this is the final line. As I say, that's a faster than it is really, but we've really improved our end of line inspection, the lighting, the whole aspect of that, and again, learned a lot from our colleagues around the world. And these are all standard processes now. So, June 23rd, we had typical Saturday meetings with Sergio. And this was a different day, though. And then, again, we were going through the launch. We just finished up the launch of the Wrangler, finished up the launch, or we're in the process of launching the Ram. Still dealing with some aspects of the Cherokee move. We had the Compass still coming up and, all this variety of things. And he had started the year out. We were supposed to make about 2.8 million vehicles. And he decided we're going to make 3 million vehicles. We had no clue how. The suppliers didn't know, a lot of people didn't know, and the most important part of that, the dealers and the sales guys weren't sure what we were going to do with those 3 million vehicles. And so it wasn't going as well by June as he really wanted to go. So I'm sure Bob remembers this meeting, but we had a management team meeting. That started out, we had a pep talk, and he spent probably 20 minutes telling us how bad we were. It was like a locker room. And then he spent the next 20 minutes telling us how good we were. And we're going to go. We're picked and handpicked, and we're going to go to victory lane. And I'm being serious. It was that kind of a thing. And he talked about he'd had this conference. He went to the big conference and got interviewed. And he said they asked him why he did 5-year plans, because CEOs don't do 5-year plans. He said, well, you know what? That's what we're doing. We hit him. He says, what I do, he says, I can never... When I put a 5-year plan together, I can never know what's going to really happen. The econometric parameters, all that, I don't know. He says, what I end up, I need people that report to me, and this is the freedom he gave us, that will make decisions, that will change the course when the course needs changed, to make the target. And it may not look like it was when it was 5 years ago. And again, he did it 4 times in 20 years. But he talked about the dysfunction on, I think, if all of us who worked in the automotive industry, the one thing we know for sure is the unpredictability of everything there is to know. And and then we had a kind of unrelated to that, but important, we had a video conference meeting with our guys in Mexico because we were, again, dealing with the coming up launch of the heavy duty, as well as we wanted to make as many trucks as possible because they had a bigger ticket number on them too. And particularly, he didn't want to lose any production when we did it. So we had that. And then he'd asked me, like the day before, he wanted to meet with me one-on-one. So this is after all these meetings. I'm thinking this can be good. Can be good. So I go in his office, sat down. He looked at me. He said, "Brian," he said, "we've been friends for a long time." Well, that was a relief, but I said, "Well, I hope we still are." Which wasn't the best thing to say, actually. And he went on to share some very, I would say, intimate things, and he had even talked about us doing some things after retirement. He says, "I know we're retiring," because he was going to retire too. And so then, so I walked out of there, planning the future. Number your days. Tanya Pratt-Nicky, Joe Huber and I talked about her. He was instrumental in her career. She's a plant manager in the powertrain division. Her dad was a trainer. I don't know if anybody knew him. I can't remember his name. Shock. His first name. But he came to Kokomo, I don't know, probably my 4th or 5th year, maybe working. And he wrote this on an easel. And, the essence of it is what I don't know that I don't know. I mean, he really, and I have never forgot that. I've used this illustration. The people who work for me get tired of it, or did work for me. But it's so true. We make all kinds of decisions, and the reality is it's the things we don't know that really we have to adjust to. We had to adjust because we did not expect this. I had no idea. When I walked out of his office, that would be the last time I would talk to him. And certainly any plan, whether we were going to do it or not, went away. That was a shocking change. And with that, this was really the guy to me. Hopefully this will play. This is him. The sound does matter here.
Now, what I've learned from all my years as chief executive is that culture is the fabric that holds organizations together. And this fabric is woven together continuously by members of a group and not by deeds of a single individual. The era of the great man, of a greater-than-life individual who working alone cures all the ills of an organization is now finally dead. The great man has been replaced by great groups who are able to accomplish much more than talented people working alone. Great groups are led by men and women with the extraordinary capacity to bring out the best in others, help them build self-confidence and grow as professionals and, even more importantly, as human beings. And when you're able to build and nurture trust in people, they feel encouraged to develop both their professional qualities as well as their human abilities. They follow you not just because they're obliged to, but because it is simply what they want to do. Trust is essential in leading change and leading people to do things with a sense of mission, bringing conviction and belief and devotion to the effort. Our accomplishments are attributable first and foremost to the mindset and capabilities, both technical and cultural, of our leaders. These are courageous individuals who have an appetite for challenge and who will shape their own future.
So, that's to me who he was and the difference that he made in our company. Will be lasting forever, and certainly me too. There's a few other things, but I think in the interest of time, I'm going to cut it right here. So I appreciate the opportunity. I do have I have two books here. I didn't write the book, so there won't be no book signing. But this was something that I came across back actually in Kokomo. And it's a book that was put out. It says The Story of American Company. It was put out by our company in 1955 with a preface in here from Walter P. I don't think he wrote it, but I don't know that. So I'm going to give these two away. We found them. I found that, and then we had them redone in the company and made a few copies. So the person who's been retired the longest in the room gets one. Who is it? Go ahead. You take control here. Yeah.
Okay, Brian, you're asking who's been retired the longest?
Right. Who's been retired the longest?
Who's been retired the longest? 10 years? 20 years? Who's been 20? 30? Anybody higher than 30 here? 30 going once, going twice. 28 years. Yeah, they have to be here. Yes. You know what I mean?
And living.
Yes. 29. 29? I think we got a couple 29s. 33.
33.
I think that might be the winner.
Okay.
Anybody higher than 33?
All right. Who is it?
Stand up and let me see you. Let us see you. Who's 33? 33 years. No, 30. How many years retired? Who's the longest? Anybody at 30?
Since you retired.
1990 retired. Who 1990?
There you go.
Looks like there's a winner right there at 92.
Right here?
91.
All right, I think we have a few 90. I think we have a few 91s. All right.
Uh-oh, that's not good.
That's not good.
I got 2 books.
Okay. Who retired in 1991? Stand up, please. All right, now. I guess we gotta go down the months, right?
I got 2 books.
Okay. What month? May. Okay. So you retired? 1991. No. Okay, so you're at May 1991. October. Now I gotta go down to the day. Okay, 2 books. Okay. All right. There you go. That one worked out. Okay. I think with that, Brian, thank you very, very much. We're going to open this up to Q&A, and you can direct any questions to Brian or Jay or anyone else if you wish. So, any questions? We covered it all. Everything's covered? Oh, wait a minute. We have a question over here.
Brian, with electrification coming, the powertrain products are becoming a lot less complex. How is that going to impact the FCA manufacturing process over the next decade?
I don't know that I don't know.
That's why you retired.
That's why I retired. Let me say it this way, it'll change, but I have no clue how bad or how much. Maybe Bob can answer that, I don't know.
Bob, did you want to comment? No. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Brian, can I just add one thing? Brian, can I just add one thing? This is not a question, but during your presentation, you retired about a year. Every time you talked about something that was done or something, you used the term "we." And I think I'd be willing to guess that everybody here in this room, when they talk to a family, a friend, a neighbor, and talk about Chrysler, they use the same term. Like we're still there, we're still part of that. So that's really good to hear. I appreciate that very much.
I'd like to follow up on that when we can, because it's something that is a penchant of mine, and it's something that we covered with FCA. Hopefully I won't make anybody upset at FCA, but one of the things we talked about at our meeting was that the company tends to, and all companies tends to say about retirees have left the company. And I argued with them to say that's not true. We're still a part of the company. And I said I believe that the vast majority of retirees, in my opinion, if you get cut, you still bleed a Pentastar. And that you still support the company, are proud of the activities that the company have, and live and die by the company still. It's still a we. I tried to express that to them when they sent out letters to employees about the Peugeot merger and to select suppliers. I said to them, you missed a huge group that you're ignoring. And I said, that's the retirees who are still connected, because we have under 65 has health care, we still can buy insurance from them, we get HRAs, we get our pension from the company. So I tried to express to them that we haven't left the company, we're still here. And so we'll continue to fight for that. So just wanted to let you know that.
Okay, with that, thank you, Jay. Thank you, Brian, very much. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Please be careful driving home. Have a good week, a good day, and we'll see you, I think, July. Is that right? No, July? May. We'll see you back in May. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.